Hello there, my name is Spencer. I am a League of Legends coach, and welcome to my breakdown of patch 8.16 for the game of League of Legends. Now, for the record, this is the very first time I've looked at these patch notes, so this might be a little gritty. But with all that being said, let's just see exactly what Riot did this particular time. Now, let's just get right past this, get straight into the champions here. So, Aatrox, E passive healing against non-champions decreased, charges granted on learning E decreased, R cooldown increased to early ranks. Aatrox was in a place where he was just still a little bit too strong. He wasn't at that juggernaut status, that permaban status, particularly in competitive, but he was still a monster and really didn't have any true counter pick, which is what made him so busted. The fact that he's not going to be able to grant healing off minions is going to be really good, or at least it's going to trim down his lane superiority so that he'll have to actually scale. He'll have a weakness, a way to attack him. He won't have that constant health pool being able to back him up in lane. The R also getting a little bit of a nerf, but to be honest, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, you're not really going to see that big of a difference. Fizz Buffs from the last patch, they're going from 0.6 to 0.5, 0.4 to 3.5, 0.8, 1, 1 point. Guys, this is a nerf. How much are you nerfing? 0.05. Okay, so Fizz hasn't changed at all. That's one of those things that people say, oh, this champion's busted, this champion's busted, this champion's busted, and Riot might not necessarily agree with the community in a lot of these aspects. So what they do is they do this, pretend to nerf, so that a small percentage of the people who are saying nerf, 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 they got their nerf, but they didn't really get their nerf. They think they did, but they didn't. So Fizz is basically the same. Hecarim is pretty weak. We want to be careful about how we buff him. Q Rampage. Base damage increased on higher ranks. A nice little buff for Hecarim. Hecarim's kind of a champion that really isn't going to see any competitive play in the first place. In terms of solo queue, really Hecarims, typically you see them as one-trick ponies, so they're going to be playing Hecarim regardless. With that being said, might be worth picking up, but the buffs aren't really that big of a jump to make it worthwhile. Orion excels at keeping... So this is just like a base magic resist nerf, just to make it so she isn't nearly as dominant against, magic champions. Let's see if Syndra ends up getting nerfed down the line. That would be interesting. Attack damage growth. Quinn got a little bit of a nerf in terms of her damage. Definitely going to hurt her in the early game. Not so much in the late game. But, yeah, definitely something that needed to be done. I mean, Quinn is absolutely busted, especially in the bot lane. It can be played at top 2, but there's a lot of champions that will end up outscaling her later in the game. But her ability to just fly around the map and cause absolute chaos is just insane. Her movement speed, especially once you get Ghost Blades and boots, I mean, she's just balls to the wall crazy. And also, this champion isn't super high skill cap, so she's really easy to pick up. There's not really much you have to do. Her passive actually allows you to last hit minions virtually it's almost impossible to screw up. On top of that, she has a blind. She's got this huge wave clear ability with her Q. She has vision, so she's like an Ashe, but it's right there in front of you, and reveals enemy units. And her R, her speed around the map is just insane. We're turning down Rakan's durability in the early game to make him more vulnerable in matchups. Rakan right now, to be honest, I think was actually in a decent spot. I don't really feel like this needed to happen. I don't really feel like he needed an extra nerf. He was already pretty squishy already. A lot of people have ended up switching from going from a airy start to going more in the the shield start, because they don't want to end up getting blown up, because Rakan actually has pretty low base stats uh, from the start. And if you end up rushing your trinket and not going Zeke's or something like that, then you're really going to be squishy. So I really don't feel like this is warranted, particularly because Rakan is really the only true support, in my opinion, that can counter Pyke. You can play champions like Alistar or Braum and stuff like that and have a nice little push back and forth between Pyke, but I don't feel like it's a true counter. Rakan was actually a true counter, because if you end up getting queued in, you could actually just W out or E out to your teammate. So, don't really agree with that. Talia movement speed decreased, W cooldown increased earlier ranks, R wall no longer grants vision. That's interesting. Definitely will, make her jungle clear a little bit different, but 335, 5 movement speed, it's not the end of the world. Being able to have her passive, regardless, she's going to be moving faster than everyone else as long as she's next to a wall. Her seismic shove getting a nerf, so it actually scales up in terms of cooldown and stuff like that. So now it might actually be advantageous to go work on your W rather than your E. But to be honest, not really a huge change here. Definitely the biggest change is just going to be not being able to grant vision. So, there's times where you throw that wall up and you're in the enemy's base, all of a sudden you can just see anyone that's nearby to that wall. Now you can't. So that actually is going to be a pretty huge change, because if someone was behind that wall, are you not going to be able to see them? Are you not going to be able to see over the wall? Because it technically it's a real wall, is it not? I don't know. It'll be interesting. We'll see. Q base damage decreased at later ranks. Q damage ratio increased at later ranks. Q attack damage sap duration decreased. I don't think Trundle is in like a nasty position, particularly for solo queue. Really, this is just like the safest jungle pick right now. Gragas is actually something that's really coming into his own. I don't know if you saw the LCK game between Afrika Freaks and Kingzone, but Gragas is just popping off, an absolute monster of a jungler. Trundle, on the other hand, really isn't going to have as much priority, I don't think. You see a lot of people, particularly in the NALCS, first picking Trundle because it's just such a safe pick. There isn't like a true counter to it. So, might end up seeing a little bit of a change in terms of esports. In terms of solo queue, I mean, Trundle really wasn't being played all that much anyway. This really is just for those very few and far between times that he was being played as a support champion or even a top champion. I see that just being almost completely destroyed and mitigated, which kind of sucks. But it looks like it's going to be a Trundle in the jungle only type of deal. Cooldown increased at later ranks. Tryndamere is actually really nasty in solo queue. In competitive, he can be mitigated because people know how to actually stop a split push. But anything like Diamond 3 and below, or Diamond, yeah, I'd say Diamond 4 and below, Diamond 3 and below, this champion's a monster. And he's just super selfish. Really, you just have to push lane and completely just zone out everybody else. Don't feed your ass off, and you'll win the game because people don't know how to counter it. And then you can go for those spicy backdoors with your R. Having the nerf on his spinning slash, this is good. I think this. I thought Tryndamere always had too much mobility. Right when you think you're about to get him, and he just would E away. Yeah, it was nuts. That 2 seconds might not seem like that much, particularly in those later ranks. But when he's able to Q, and he's able to ult, and he's able to E away, and he's able to slow you down like a little chicken, this is definitely something that I could see need to happen, and I totally agree with it. All right, Rakan's boost damage is too high for a champion who has both dash and invisibility. Wukong doesn't need a nerf, okay? I mean, Wukong's can be strong, but he did not need a nerf. This is a pure LOL Esports nerf. I don't know if you've been seeing Fnatic, but Caps has been playing. I think he has 2 games on Wukong so far, and he's won both of them. And this is just not a champion that needs a nerf. It's not a busted champion. He's super. He has no mobility. If his W's down, he's pretty much ripe for the taking. Once his ult's down too, I mean, like, you E in, you Q. Let's say your W's down, you have no ult. You're dead. You're just a sitting duck, just auto attacking. Basically, just a big minion. Not a nerf that I believe was warranted. Woo! This champion needed a nerf big time. Zoe is just nutso, particularly in high elo. She's just insane, and there's almost zero things you can do against her. I don't know if you saw the Afrika and Kingzone game, but was it BDD? Not sure who it was, but this person used 3 flashes in a row and still had their own flash in their back pocket. Now, given this was during a team fight, or like shortly there afterwards, but just the amount of movement around the map and the plays that you're able to pull off is just insane. This champion just has too much going for it, too much damage. And that Sleepy Treble Bubble is nuts. You get hit with that thing, you might as well just guarantee half your health, if not your entire health bar. So I'm really happy this champion got nerfed. It needed it. In lower elos, people weren't really able to abuse it because they don't really know how to play her properly. But when played properly, similar to like a Zed player or a Yasuo player, Zoe is absolutely disgusting. So with that being said, I'm really glad she did get nerfed. Tanks haven't been feeling hot. Okay, so I don't know what it is about Worlds, but it seems like every time like Worlds is ramping up, it's like they bring tanks back into the game. Just for like just no apparent reason. Tanks haven't been viable all season long. They're played in competitive because you simply need somebody to be able to face check into the brush. That was literally the whole purpose of tanks. And now they're going to have a little bit more to them. Now, I'm not opposed to this idea, but wouldn't it be nice to have a Worlds where, I don't know, we have, carry top laners, we have Jax, we have Darius, we have Singed, we have maybe even Echo, some crazy picks up in the top lane, but nope. You know what's going to happen? It's going to be Ornn, it's going to be Cho'Gath, it's going to be Dr. Mundo, it's just going to be a bunch more of this. E-Passive Nail Scales. I like it. Mumu is a pretty weak champion. If he misses his Q, he's basically useless. He's built so much around his R that if his R is down, you're basically screwed. You have no way to slow down your enemies unless you rush something like a Rylai's, and then you're really screwing up your build path, especially if you're going tank. W cooldown released at later ranks for Leona. Cool. Leona has always been kind of like a tier below Alistar. Alistar just has too much engage, able to knock up multiple champions at the same time instead of locking down a single target. It's point and click abilities as opposed to Leona where you have to aim them. It's nice to see a little bit of buff for Leona. Definitely going to make her survivability pretty viable. And she's already pretty decent. I feel like she is pretty underrated. But Alistar is just so much better in almost every situation. W base shield decreased slightly, increased at later ranks. W maximum health scaling decreased at later ranks. W duration and cooldown decreased. So basically what this is similar to a couple patches ago where they changed the shielding for support champions, where instead of just having a base health shield, it would be front loaded, where if they didn't take all the damage, then the shield would whittle down in effectiveness over time. So this is something that will be nice because it will benefit players that know when they're going to get hit by a skill shot or knowing that they're going to be into a big fight. This is not going to help players who play Nautilus who don't know when that skill shot's going to hit them, or when they're about to queue into a fight, or just not setting up their W timings properly. And this is going to reward players that know when to, and it's going to hurt players that don't. So I'm for it. Anything that increases the skill cap of a champion, but not making it harder, just making it more decision based, is always something that I can totally agree with. W bonus resists increase. Now, Ramos is actually pretty decent in my opinion, particularly in lower elo. I don't see him being viable, particularly in competitive. But if you give him movement speed with his Q, he's disgusting. And if you end up being let's say you're either a support player or a jungler, and you're fourth or fifth pick on your team, and you see that their entire team is AD, just go Ramos. You'll have the best time. You'll have so much fun. You'll just laugh as you sit there with your Thornmail and your now improved bonus armor W, even stronger bonus magic resistance as well, and you'll just laugh as the enemy team kills themselves. It's nice to watch. W health gain increased. Health gain from enemies 4. Maximum health gain from large enemies 15. Decent. Cool. They're just trying to make Sion more viable so he can be played in the top lane. He's basically all but disappeared, particularly in competitive. Cho'Gath's taken over. Occasionally you'll see Ornn, but it's really just been Cho'Gath and Dr. Mundo. Cho'Gath and Dr. Mundo. Cho'Gath and Dr. Mundo. No Maokai, no Sion. Doesn't look like we're going to have any Maokai buffs, so I guess they don't want to bring him back into the mix. But they're trying to... Clearly, this is trying to bring Sion back into the mix, because they see that Cho'Gath scales so freaking hard, it's ridiculous. So they want Sion to be able to at least be viable and try to be a little bit more competitive. But, 3 to 4, 10 to 15, Q slowdown duration, cooldown decreased. W duration decreased at later ranks. W cooldown significantly increased. What? W mana cost decreased. W cooldown now halved. Oh my god. Huh. Ugh. That cooldown is actually just way too high. Goodbye, Tahm Kench. Say goodbye to the fish. He's not going to be played. He's already not viable in solo queue. He's basically useless. This is basically going to force you. Yeah, I mean, there's literally nothing you can do unless you go to the inspiration tree and get that added, movement slow. Yeah, goodbye, Tom. That's just too big of a nerf, in my opinion. The jump is just ludicrous. 14 to 28, 10 to 16. I mean, it's like, yo. Honestly, all that's going to do is for a team that plays with Tahm Kench is slow down the game. Does that make a funner game? I don't think so. Not too fast, not too slow, but come on. Oh, snap. Huh. They're nerfing Summon Area at the early levels. Base shielding increased. They're making it so it gives you a little bit more, but base damage decreased. Damage, man. Wow. Wow, this might actually... I mean, the bonus movement speed... That sucks. I mean, celerity really is more of like a support thing, but, you want that added speed or something in the jungle. But that definitely does suck as well. Base damage decrease. Man, Cheap Shot is super weak in the early stages. That might actually just disappear altogether. Lethality and Magic Sudden Impact nerfed. Scorch nerfed. Hard. Scorch nerfed real hard. Damn. That might actually have huge repercussions because the early game... Oh, man. That's just crazy. Heal cooldown decreased. They're really trying to make it so that games last longer. That's all this entire patch was about. Okay. Let's just keep going. Summoner level, you can now show off your summoner level borders on banners in game lobbies. Ooh. End of game lobby. Stats will be playing, blah blah blah, bug fixes. Upcoming champions! Don't care. And of course, new news going to be coming later in this patch, which will be cool. Well then, yeah, okay. So I think this patch is a net negative, in my opinion. Obviously, we need nerfs to Zoe. We need nerfs to Fizz. In terms of the runes, I think this was too big of a jump. I think this is really. I would not be surprised if game time, particularly in competitive, increases by upwards of 5 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if solo queue games last for 4 or 5 minutes longer. Yeah, I mean this is really just like one of those health patches, so it makes so you don't get blown up instantly, which I can totally understand because if you're playing, if you've played against a really strong Evelyn or a really strong Rengar or Kha'Zix before, you felt it. You just get one shot, and maybe you aren't even necessarily the one who happened to feed. You got your top laner, he's 0-7. Maybe you're down in bot lane, maybe you're a jungler, maybe you're like 3-1 or something. You didn't do anything wrong, you know. But yeah, it's definitely going to increase game time. I think I don't know. I would give this patch, I guess, basically a C. Pretty average. Not huge changes, um, but definitely gonna feel it in terms of game time. Definitely gonna feel it because it's gonna allow players to make more mistakes, which I guess is good for learning. But at the same time, you should be able to be punished for those mistakes. They're also trying to make it in such a way so that maybe things that were mistakes before are no longer mistakes because that person doesn't have the one shot potential that they did before, which is kind of good if you've been playing against LeBlancs and Talons and Fizz and whatever. The Ori, the thing that kind of came out of left field for me was the Tahm Kench. I don't understand why you nerfed him so hard. I mean, he was literally just like, you're just going to make the champion unviable, which I guess maybe that's what they want, because he has played a ton, particularly with Varus in the bot lane. We'll see how people end up, working around that. Maybe Nautilus, or not Nautilus, maybe Nocturne won't have the one-shot potential that he does before with the rune changes. I guess we'll see. We'll see. I'm definitely going to give this a C. With all that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and or comment. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.